fragmented scene, fragmented security arena. How does it happen? What is the best is state of nature that we aspire to? It's actually to have a state, and a state is a monopoly. This is all that we want. But then, the moment we lose that, and the security arena begins to fragment in the way it has fragmented in Sudan, you can say basically now you have two main actors. This is a kind of duopoly. If you are talking of a political marketplace, a possibility of this degenerating into a kind of a competitive market, which would mean you have multiple actors dominating the scene, is not far-fetched. So you delay the mediation, this is the result you get.
Okay.
The security
So
arena
will
becomes
that be
more,
your key takeaway from
yeah.
here?
Thank
Okay,
you.
wonderful. Now, Samuel, you know, wait, before that, Siraj, IGAD, you must bring all these very bright people in one room for one day, tell them to tell us now what we must do. Because even me, I'm tired sometimes, you know, that it goes in. And now you are young, Samuel. Samuel, if you start talking like us forever and a day, you'll be in the same problems we are in now. 20 years from now, you're going to tell some young person, I'm leaving you with a bad legacy. So don't leave us a bad. One takeaway, I said.
Thank you very much. I'm not that young, maybe.
But you are younger than me, so one takeaway.
Yeah, that's right. My takeaway actually came from you.
Okay. You can have two.
When you said our agency for mediation is eroding because these days the currency of peace through strength is totally absent in Africa. That is very, very important because as the global environment changes, what else do we have in hand? And so that was one of my quick takeaways.
Yo, this man has a bright future. Paul Simon, my brother, give us one key takeaway.
Come on, I'm one of those who were asked yesterday to prepare for it. So I have more than one key takeaways, but I'll be fast.
Did you say more than one, or you told him one takeaway?
I'll be fast. Don't worry. Don't worry. You were asked to reinvent mediation in 2 days of plenary. This is an impossible job, but I mean, the program was packed. I have a couple of issues I think are important for IGAD for the next months and years. First of all, many speakers have addressed the issue of state building in various dimensions. And Alex Rondo said the Horn of Africa is a region at war. I see that as a process of state building, but the Horn has peculiarities. Africa's only region where secession has been successful, but also Africa's highest ranking regions with the number of interstate wars. Wars in Africa are generally internal; they are not interstate. But in the Horn, we have a surprising amount of interstate wars. So these processes have an impact on IGAD. It impacts regional cooperation. I'm not even talking about regional integration, which is the end state of cooperation. So it's difficult to build trust and under those circumstances. But as Ambassador Guyo was saying, we have no alternative. We have to make IGAD work. The next takeaway is the role of hegemons. APSA was built on the predicament that some states will carry more responsibility than others in driving the process. It worked relatively well in the first decade, maybe and a half of the existence of APSA, but then it started fading out. particularly in the last 6 years, I mean, hegemons have become more inward-looking because of their state-building contradictions, actually. We had the example of Ethiopia being responsible in the Horn of Africa of security and Kenya of business, of economy. But this situation is actually not peculiar to the Horn. It's symptomatic of what is happening to most hegemons in Africa. This could also be an opportunity for smaller countries with diplomatic clouds, because hegemons don't necessarily have to be the biggest country.
And the last point?
The last point is maybe the trap of bureaucracy. Someone, a good friend of mine, was remarking one day that the AU's best successes in mediation happened when the AU didn't have a dedicated mediation unit. Since then, the AU has actually not been able to properly get peace agreement. So one was suggesting that IGAD should build a small, he insisted on small, mediation unit. It should really be small. IGAD should not try to replicate what the UN has, or, okay, the AU is not a great example. Bureaucratizing mediation will mean that actually architecture will take precedence over competence and over leadership. This is a trap that IGAD should be avoiding. It's not about big bureaucracies.
Very true. Architecture will trump leadership and competence.
The last point that...
No, that was your last point. So I was really just emphasizing it. Thank you, Paul Simon. Now, don't take a chance now. You know, Pekka Havisto, just to tell you how long this man has been involved in Africa, I had dinner at his house in Finland with Salim Ahmed Salim. You remember, Pekka? We came there, you hosted us very nicely at your house. Why I raised that? Because, you know, Salim Ahmed Salim was long ago. That's how long Pekka has been involved. He's not a sucker for punishment that he takes this new job from the UN. It's just that he's a very good friend of Africa and very committed to Africa. So Pekka, you are an old hand at the game. Sitting here, listening to us, what are your key 3 takeaways? I'll give you 3.
Well, I was preparing to give only 1, but now you are very generous with 3. Let me start actually with security architecture and the role of IGAD in this region. I think when the Soviet Union collapsed, at that time President Mauno Koivisto said that some people think that when many things are changing, everything has changed. And this is actually true probably at this moment. We might think that the whole world has changed, but it's not changed totally. So we might maintain some good practices also in the mediation. That's my first point. My second point actually is to my hometown, Helsinki, because Helsinki process was mentioned many times on the security processes, and definitely it should be a model in many places of the world, and it could be used in Africa. I just give one warning. The Helsinki process also had a Trojan horse. It has the basket number 3 about the freedom of the press and freedom of the civil liberties and so forth. And probably that was the process that when everybody thinks that the Helsinki process was maintaining the status quo, actually Helsinki groups were established in the Eastern Europe to advocate this kind of civil rights, and that maybe the result was maybe fall of the Berlin Wall. So actually it was an interesting process, but that part of the history should be also remembered. And then actually my last point is an issue where I disagree with some of the speakers, and it's about the role of the African mediation. Many of you are thinking that it's some kind of failure if African Union or IGAD or they both cannot handle all the mediation processes. And I'm thinking that it's a strength that we, for example, have the quintet now doing the Sudan process with the UN, with the EU, with the League of Arab States and so forth. And actually the very similar argumentation that was used here, that independent states, sovereign states are forming coalitions, are forming organizations like African Union. Now multilateral organizations are in such a weak position that they can unite their strengths and working according to their best knowledge and all the capabilities that they have. And I think it's a huge strength that we are working in that format now in the peace process in Sudan. And then I end with the issue that I have learned from the Sudanese. Sudanese usually are saying, at least in the end of the discussion, that Sudan would be a perfect country, but it has terrible neighbors, and these neighbors are meddling the Sudanese life. And my answer always to that is that in the whole neighborhood, you are the most terrible kid. So you look to the mirror. You have caused most of our troubles, and you have occupied most of our activities, mediation activities, and so forth in the history. So look in the mirror is also sometimes good. Thank you.
Now I'm going to make an offer. PM, you are here now. I'm going to make an offer even in your name now. Pega has been a very good friend to Africa. Pega, we are offering now also African solution to European problems. Please call us when you're in trouble. You are in a troubled neighborhood. You have a big brother next to you. You have a lot of troubles. PM, are you okay? You're going to come. Will you please make time? You will go, eh? Becca, that is an offer. If the big brother problems, borders and all of that, call us. We have a lot of experience in this thing. We can help. Stephanie, you think we should go and help others, or we are destroying your future already and that we should just stay here and destroy it more?
Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to share my insights on, I think, what is an extremely important issue for our continent. I think I'll just pick up from where Pekka left and just say that it is so unfortunate to see that the sort of new wave of mediation is characterized by self-interest. And before peace in Kenya, or rather peace in Sudan, or peace in Somalia, or peace in Ethiopia meant peace for Kenya. And I say Kenya because this is where I live. And so that used to be the notion, whereas now it's more characterized by self-interest. So I would say, you know, that then this ties into the question that I asked yesterday. This is where we have to be, I think, very deliberate about the mediators that we're choosing to sit on our table. And this is where IGAD and the African Union have an opportunity to really own, like I said, the process and influence the outcomes. But I think I'll just focus very quickly on my, I think, most fundamental takeaway, and I think that is the need to sort of strengthen multilateral coordination. That's one thing that came out, and of course empowering African-led people-centered mediation approaches. That was, I think, brought out yesterday, which is, I think, extremely paramount because we're really leaving out the needs of the people. And I think prioritizing the needs and the interests of the people and finding out their desires is, I think, is extremely essential in tying into the overall process. I think a very good example of that, it may have had its challenges, but a great example of really bringing this down to the people is the Gacaca courts, for example, in Rwanda. You know, this is a way in which, you know, mediation was really felt all the way down to the ground and captured also then, you know, in the overall process. I think one thing I would have definitely liked to have seen discussed here a little bit more significantly is this new frontier that we're experiencing, which is climate stress. You touched on it slightly, but I don't think it has been given the sort of deep dive that we needed to really give it. And that is really this climate-sensitive mediation being integrated into, basically integrating climate adaptation and sort of resource management into the core of peace agreements, and even in peace processes, to prevent this immediate relapse over things like land disputes, water disputes. I mean, we're living in the Horn of Africa, and the Horn of Africa is somewhere that is plagued by climate stresses such as, intense drought or flooding. So these are issues that we know are going to be, very paramount in our neck of the woods. So I think integrating these climate security dynamics, I think, into mediation agendas, especially in situations where climate stresses are very, very significantly felt, I think will be a very important way forward, I think, for some of these regional organizations such as IGAD to take into account. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. You see, nice and brief and short. Thank you very much. Give them a big hand. They will take leave of us now and go back to their seats. And Haile, you have like 3 things you want to raise. That you come up here, because I want you to come up, and then PM, if you can join us. Come, join us. And Siraj, will you join us? And then we're in the closing session. I'm just following from Abdul, right? So if you give us 2 takeaways, and PM, you have been sitting and listening, if you will give us 2 takeaways that you have that will help us to crystallize, and then Siraj, you will join us for the closing, and then we are done. Haile, you can come to the podium.
I can come to the podium. I could say, it's just one.
No, say it on the podium.
Yeah. Thank you. I really don't have anything new to say except to summarize in my own way what has been already said. That we are now existing in an Africa where existing mechanisms to address conflict or to resolve conflict have been weakened to the point where they cannot resolve conflicts adequately. Furthermore, external interference or interests have complicated conflicts facing African nations, African peoples, and therefore the coping mechanisms are further weakened, and as a result, conflicts that mechanisms that has been established, like the UN, like the AU, like IGAD and other regional organizations, find it actually difficult to resolve them through the mechanisms that exist. And therefore, mediation, because there is a breakdown or weakness of the existing mechanisms to address conflict and its results, it is necessary to have an ad hoc. Mediation is an ad hoc process because there are mechanisms already for addressing conflict, but because of their weakness and the complications they face as a result of external interferences, we need mediation. That is the conclusion, really. And an important thing, actually, that was added, mediation alone is not enough, that there has to be mechanisms for follow-up of implementation. And this, in short, is what I think I did.
No, thank you very much. That was a very clear takeaway. Excellency, I give you the platform.
Thank you very much, Basu. I wasn't expecting to speak Of course, we've been making our comments through the day or the days. But let me start by commending IGAD for making this possible. I think this type of meeting is extremely important. It gives us an opportunity to get away from the formal member states meeting with all its limitations and handicaps, and allow the opportunity for a free, frank, candid exchange of ideas, but also an opportunity to be able to benefit from such a gathering which is not necessarily available for member states. So I think IGAD leadership is really commended for making this possible. Thank you very much for availing this opportunity for us. I must say also, this is a meeting which was held to address mediation issues in the whole of IGAD, but because of the probably the most serious crisis in the continent today, in my home country, Sudan, Sudan has taken a center stage. So also, thank you very much for all your thinking. Almost every speaker has a word or two to say about Sudan and contribution to what could be helping us to address this. So thank you very much for that. And I would like to emphasize one or two things. I think our African institutions, IGAD and OAU and AU, must take lead in resolving our problems. We know their deficiencies, their problems, their shortcomings, but they remain our umbrella organizations that could take lead with the support of others. We are not here denouncing or belittling or thinking that other contributions are not important. In the context of Sudan, I would like to single out two initiatives which have serious promise in addressing our problem. The Quad, with its 4 member states, with the leverage that will bring to this process, but also the Quintet, with its 5 members. I must say also, over the last few months, we're beginning to see some alignment within the Quintet, which is very promising. Let's build on all the previous efforts, whether it's Paris, London, but most importantly, Berlin was a step in the right direction. The consensus that was established there, let's build on it and move forward with this process. I think I don't want to probably repeat what has been a very rich exchange of ideas and reflections and all that. I hope the Secretariat, the organizers, have captured all this and shared with us the benefit of getting all the contributions that was made in this successful meeting. But thank you so much for having us here. Thank you.
My brother, is it very pressing? If it's short, it must be very short. Okay, I give you the floor for a very short intervention.
The micro is not helping. So, thank you. Thank you. I think that the Horn of Africa has demonstrated both the promise and pitfalls of African-led mediation. Renewing mediation doctrines requires moving from reactive, ad hoc interventions to systematic, principle-driving frameworks. By embedding ownership, inclusivity, humanitarian priorities, accountability, and collaborative multilateralism, IGAD and the African Union can shape a new era of mediation, one new era of mediation, one that is proactive, resilient, and capable of guiding societies from conflict towards sustainable peace. Je pense que la conférence, à travers une participation de haut niveau et des échanges de haute facture, a réussi à relever le défi de clarification du concept de la médiation et comment aller de l'avant. Merci beaucoup.
Merci. Honorable Fagesa, the Executive Secretary had to go for a very urgent meeting, so Honorable Fagesa will give us the official close down.
Thank you, Vazu. My closing remark is after those very several closing remarks, so it will be very brief. His Excellency Abdullah Hamdok, former Prime Minister of Sudan, Excellency Ambassador Mohammed Blish, a representative, Excellencies, distinguished participants, colleagues and friends. I have the honor to deliver brief closing remarks on behalf of the Executive Secretary, His Excellency Dr. Workana Gabayo, who apologized for he is unable to be with us at this closing session due to urgent engagements. This is therefore to convey on his behalf his appreciation for all of you for your presence, your commitment, and your thoughtful contributions. This has been highly productive and meaningful conference. The richness of the discussion, the openness of the exchanges, and the depth of insights shared here reflects both seriousness and the commitment to resolve the challenges and our collective commitment to address them. Over the past 2 days, we have engaged honestly with the realities confronting mediation today, its growing complexity, the fragmentation of efforts, and the increasing influence of geopolitical dynamics. Yet, we have also reaffirmed a central truth that mediation should be strategic and that its renewal is both necessary and possible. The Executive Secretary wishes to emphasize that the outcomes of this conference will be of a great value in informing IGAD's strategic direction. They will strengthen our current, more effective, and more responsive to the evolving nature of conflict in our region and beyond. Therefore, our conference was not only a reflection for its own sake, but it is a foundation for action. Excellencies, allow me to once again express IGAD's deep appreciation to the government of the people of Kenya for their generosity in hosting this conference. We are also grateful to all facilitators for their valuable contribution and organizers who made this important conference possible. Distinguished participants, as we conclude, I would like to convey the Executive Secretary's message that your insights and contributions will be seriously taken for further action. The task ahead is clear: to reframing and strengthening mediation, make it more effectiveness, and ensure it remains a credible tool for achieving sustainable peace. The Executive Secretary has also requested that I convey to you his intention to have this platform become an annual event with a view to ensuring we are learning on a continuous basis. On behalf of the Executive Secretary, I thank you once again for your engagement, active participation, and a commitment to addressing the current challenges of conflict in our region and beyond. I wish you safe travel back home and a continued success in your efforts toward peace. I thank you.
Thank you very much. That brings us to the end. Abdul, is that, Abdul puts his hand up, it means